Hello and welcome to this episode of the Blog Chronicles. I am your host, Matthew Loomis. This show is sponsored by BuildYourOwnBlog.net, the full-service destination for people who want to start their own WordPress blog and achieve long-term success. My guest today is Anna Hoffman. Anna runs a popular blog that's all about generating website traffic, how to do it, the best ways to generate traffic, the not-so-best ways of generating traffic, what works, what doesn't work, and she packages her valuable information in content that reflects her personality. She's very engaging on social media and is really good at keeping her email subscribers informed. I started following Anna on Google Plus about 4 years ago, and I noticed right away that she was one of the best at delivering the very latest tech news and bringing digital marketing breakthroughs to her audience. If something important happens that impacts the blogging community or the internet business community, Anna is always leading the pack on knowing what's going on and delivering that news to her followers in a way that helps them understand this new information quickly. In this conversation, I'm not only going to talk with her about blogging and traffic generation, I'm also going to ask her some personal questions because I think she has a fascinating personal story that you will find compelling as well. So without further ado, let's talk with Anna Hoffman. Hi, Anna. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Matthew. Thank you so much for having me.
So, Anna, how long have you been blogging?
At some point you kind of stop counting, but I think it was about 5 years ago.
5 years ago. Okay.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your very first blog.
Let's see. Actually, technically, Traffic Generation Cafe is my first blog. However,
Okay.
after about a year of running it, with the original layout, the original name, I completely rebranded it to what Traffic Generation Cafe is today. I gave it a new name, which is Traffic Generation Cafe, and I kind of refocused it on traffic generation topics. So, again, the bones are still the same. It's the same blog. I've left all the original blog posts, but just took it in a completely different direction because that's sort of one of the things about business that I've learned. You need to be able to adapt to a change in a situation, a change that is taking your business in a different direction. And that's kind of what happened for me. I learned that, the first topic, the first niche was not working very well for me. So I kind of just said, you know what, that's okay. It's okay to start from scratch. And that's what I did.
Very interesting. So you kept the name Traffic Generation Cafe.
No, that's a new name.
Oh,
My
that.
previous
Oh,
name, well, the previous niche was about attraction marketing. That was sort of a hot topic at the moment.
okay.
And then I realized that it- because it was sort of a hot topic, a lot of people started talking about it and diluting it, you know,
Yeah.
and I didn't like that. I wanted to talk about something that had more longevity and more credibility. So, and plus, while I was running my attraction marketing blog, I have realized that I had one problem because there were so many blogs popping up on the subject. It was getting harder and harder to drive traffic to it. And originally I started that blog to support an existing business of mine. And I knew nothing about blogging. I was just told, like many of us online, that a business needs a blog. But I had no idea really what the blog was for and how it was supposed to support the business, and most importantly, how a blog was supposed to drive traffic to my main business, right?
Right.
So I didn't understand any of that. Again, I just started a blog because I was told to, I needed to. And as I was blogging, and again, I had really no idea what to talk about, probably the kind of questions every starting blogger or a business owner who's told they need a blog. We all kind of face those questions. So as I was blogging about whatever, not getting very good results, yet spending my time doing it. I started analyzing and learning about blogging and analyzing what was working, what was not working, and kind of learning, so, how do I drive traffic to this blog of mine, and how do I then drive traffic to the business? And that's where it started to click. All of a sudden, I was starting to learn different traffic generation techniques. And what occurred to me was that I did not have any one central place that I could trust, that I could go to and learn about traffic generation. And of
Hmm.
course, then I kind of thought, well, if I need to know all those things, I bet you there are other people who are looking for the same kind of information and are struggling to find it. And that's how the idea of changing my niche and starting blogging about traffic generation was born.
Okay, so Traffic Generation Cafe. How long have you been using that name?
Probably about 4 years now. Yeah, I
Okay,
think
yeah,
about.
I thought it was the whole time I've known you online.
Right, because since I didn't know how to establish a presence online for the first year, nobody fortunately knew about my first failure. But I'm very happy to talk about it because it's just as important. Failures are just as much of a part of who we are today as our successes. So I'm very happy to say that, yep, failed at the first one, but good thing because it taught me how to do the second one right.
Okay, so in a nutshell, like a short synopsis, what failed? Why did it fail? And what did you learn from that experience?
Well, again, traffic was the main, being seen by others
Mm-hmm.
was the main problem. So without that, without understanding of how business works,
Mm-hmm.
you can't really make your business work, right? And the main failure there was lack of research. I just basically did what somebody told me to do without understanding why. And that's not a very good idea ever. So even when you come to Generation Cafe, and I mean, honestly, I just think it's the best blog in the niche out there. I'll be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
But despite the fact that I think that, and I think that you could probably use most of the information I publish there,
Mm-hmm.
that really truly is not true because you still need to take that information and apply it to your business. And some things may work and some things don't. Just because I say it works,
Right.
don't take my word for it. You still need to do your own research and kind of try to figure out how to make it work for yourself. So that was my main problem. I relied on people whom I shouldn't have relied on, and I started something that I had no business starting. But
Mm-hmm.
again, it turned out well in the end. But for many people who are starting to blog online or just developing any kind of online presence, they give up too quickly because they haven't done enough research
Mm-hmm.
or haven't put in enough effort to make that research work for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So you took your love for traffic generation and your love for coffee, put them
Yes.
together.
Exactly.
So online marketing has basically been your first niche, or the niche that you started in.
Yes. Yes, that's
Okay.
pretty much where I dove in right away.
Yeah, and we're going to get into a little bit more about why Traffic Generation Cafe is so awesome. Um, how does
You don't
your
want to just take my word for it? Come on now.
no? Well, I've been a consumer of your website and your newsletters, so and that's why I've got you on today.
All right, very good.
So online marketing, okay, was your first niche. So how does your website help people, like in one or two sentences?
One or two sentences, seriously?
Well,
Well, okay,
okay, a
so,
short paragraph.
okay. When I first started, I discovered two needs for brand new owners.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, for the most part, we all lack money. That's why we start business. We're not starting business because we've got all the money in the world already. So I needed something that works on low or no budgets. That was number one.
Mm.
And second one was when I blog, I talk like I think, which is in bullet points, which turned out to be a pretty good thing because
Mm.
that makes what I write very simple to understand.
Yeah.
You know, those blogs that you try to, it's like pulling teeth. You know the information is good and you can benefit from it. But if it takes you, an hour to just get through the post, it's like reading Dostoevsky.
Hmm.
That's why nobody reads him because it's so difficult. So my
Yeah.
blog is easy to read and it will give you information on how to drive traffic on the cheap
On the cheap. Okay.
for no money, really. I mean, I really have focused. That's the reason I don't do paid marketing at all. Not
Okay.
because it doesn't work. It
Hmm.
does work. But because I want to do myself what I'm talking about on my blog. It wouldn't be fair if I'm getting hundreds of thousands of visitors because I pay for them, yet I blog about free traffic generation, right?
Sure.
So yes, so basically all the traffic that I get myself is absolutely free because I use exactly the same methods that I teach you to use.
Okay. I've been following you online for a few years now, and I've noticed that you're always one of the first bloggers out there to share breaking news in the tech world. You always seem to be ahead of the game as far as when it comes to things like what new tools are available or who is offering some cutting edge teaching out there, breaking news. And this has built your reputation as an influencer in online marketing. And then you curate all this great information into an email newsletter called the Weekly Marketing Skinny.
Mm-hmm.
You have included some of my content a couple times in that newsletter, and it really is a great newsletter. So, how important has your email newsletter been to the success of your blog?
It's been wonderful to be quite honest. And when I first started doing it,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't it wasn't my intention to start a new trend for Traffic Generation Cafe by any means. It's just that I myself was so tired of feeling behind at all times
Hmm.
because things happen in the marketing world on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And what business owner has the time to keep up with them? I certainly didn't. But then the result was that it seemed like everybody else was ahead, but I was always behind, which of course is not true. You know, some people just keep updated on certain things and whatnot. But
Mm-hmm.
again, I just didn't want to be behind anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
I sat down, I started like a new Feedly RSS feed where I've fed a lot of blogs that are that do report about the news, all kinds of news, because I just wanted to know everything
Hmm.
about marketing.
Yeah.
And then over time, I kind of weeded out the ones that I found the news weren't that credible, wasn't that good, wasn't there, couldn't really apply it to an online business. And then I ended up with a very good list. And, on a daily basis, I probably skim through about 100 posts at least a day. That's a lot of
Hmm.
reading.
Yes.
But once I started doing it, I got addicted to being in the know. And
Mm-hmm.
now, when I skip a week or two of reading, or, sometimes I go on a trip and it's just not viable to read the news, I really feel lost because now I come back and I'm the last one to know. I hate that. So so yeah, so again, I started reading the news and then of course it occurred to me, well, I'm reading them anyway, right? I might as well
Hmm.
make the best of it and start writing about them at Traffic Generation Cafe. And that's how Weekly Marketing Skinny was born. And I've been doing them for about 2 years now.
Hmm.
And there were two things that, well, at least two things, good things that happened out of it. First of all, it keeps me on topic and it keeps me just focused on certain things that in turn ended up benefiting my readers greatly.
Hmm.
And then that gave me a way to build relationships that I wouldn't have built otherwise with certain people.
Hmm.
as you said, it did make me a certain authority in the marketing industry because I do know so many things that other people might miss.
Mm-hmm.
Another benefit, of course, is building my newsletter because a lot of the people subscribe to it because they want to get that, that weekly marketing skinny in their inbox.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of good things that came out of it. And I'm actually, as a matter of fact, just working on the newest one right before I jumped on the call. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's been good all around for business and for me personally.
Yeah, you are such a great source of breaking news. That's the first thing I think of when I think of Anna Hoffman.
Thank you. Not coffee, not, I don't know.
Yeah.
Coffee, I think, is another thing, but that's good with me as well.
Okay. Good. Um, so I'm curious, like, how much of just a percentage of your work that you do for Traffic Generation Cafe, how much of it is content curation, and how much of it is content creation? Would you say?
I don't want to be known as content curator because that's not what I'm about. It's almost my side gig that I do because I like to do it and because I feel I need to do it. So it really, sometimes it does happen that my weekly marketing skinny is just about the only thing I publish in a week.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I write a blog post, honestly, I put so much into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I beat myself up over it, but it is what it is because every time I publish something, I really want to know what I'm talking about
Mm-hmm.
because there are way too many posts out there that I read, even on very well-known marketing blogs. And then I go, oh my, that really is not true. So what do? Do I, make a stink about it? Do I let the business owner know about that? And then
Mm-hmm.
they'll probably take it personally. They'll never talk to me again, blah, blah, blah. So I don't want to be in the same situation when somebody comes to my blog and all of a sudden they feel like the information I provide is not credible because I haven't done my research well. So I research everything. I link out probably to way too many articles out there, but I want to support everything that I say. And then my posts just get to be very detailed. So what I've started doing lately was cutting them into smaller pieces because Traffic Generation Cafe to me is sort of involving more into bite-sized marketing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what, in my mind, I'm doing I'm the best at. And that's what I feel like people need to have these days. Nobody really wants a 10,000 word post.
Yeah.
Those things get a lot of shares, a lot of links, and I understand why. But truly, how many people sit down and take a few hours and really read those posts and implement them, take them back to their businesses? Very few people, really, because it's just too much. It's too much information.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm trying to do now is, provide information in very bite-sized chunks so that a business owner can say, okay, this takes me 5 minutes to read, digest,
Mm-hmm.
and figure out if this is something that I might be able to apply to my business. And to me, I think that's a lot more helpful to people than just making these humongously epic posts that nobody will use.
Wow. So you've really gotten in tune with your audience, and you know that that's what they want.
I hope so, because we truly never know. But it seems to be, judging by the feedback I get and,
Mm-hmm.
emails I get, this is what people want. And, content marketing, I've been thinking quite a bit about it lately.
Mm-hmm.
It's oversaturated at this point because everybody does content marketing. Not
Mm-hmm.
very well, but everybody is doing it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's getting harder and harder to catch people's attention.
Mm-hmm.
And content marketing is is evolving. Nobody just quite knows what it is evolving into. Certainly video is making more and more of a, into content marketing with live streaming and
Mhm.
more visual. But this is something that people have been talking about for a long time, and yet we're still continuing to talk about it. So either the trend hasn't settled yet, maybe it hasn't gotten over hump yet.
Mhm.
um, but when I think of videos and visual content, don't you think, Matthew, wouldn't you agree that you think of something that makes it easier to consume content? And that has nothing to do with huge blog posts. So again, it's just my
Mhm.
personal analysis of what's going on in the industry and where content marketing is going to. And, it's always nice to be ahead of the curve or even set the curve. And to me, it seems like it's going more into bite-sized marketing versus,
Mhm.
you know, those epic posts
The
that we've.
mega posts, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I saw on your YouTube channel, one of your videos said that by 2020, I believe it was 84% of all traffic was going to be through video.
Yes. And, it's not my statistics. Cisco published a very nice report, and these were their findings. And obviously, this is a future of content marketing. It's the future of marketing, period.
Mhm.
And I can see that because fewer and fewer people want to read. At the same time,
Hmm.
if I have to sit through a half an hour video just to learn 5 bullet points, am I going to do that? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So that makes no sense either. So again, content marketing has to be very specific. When you think of content marketing, it cannot be, well, it just means that I can produce whatever videos I want and people will consume them because Cisco says that they will.
Mhm.
No, you still have to, if everybody does that, then once again, you'll have to find the edge to your video marketing and make videos differently from everybody else so that people can actually watch them and will want to watch them.
Yeah.
So, this is a kind of challenge that all business owners will have to deal with. You kind of get settled in your marketing ways and then you have to learn something new. And that's
Mhm.
how any business works. So don't feel like, if you're listening and you're thinking, oh crap, now I'll have to change everything. Changing everything will never end. You
Mhm.
just have
Yeah.
to evolve with the trends, with, what's going on around you, with how people want to consume your content and how people want to find your business. This will be ever changing. So just keep your ear to the ground and listen, go
Yeah.
to where your customers go, hang out, keep your ear to the floor and listen to what they're talking about. You'll always discover things that your competitors will definitely miss because they might not be listening well enough.
That's well said. You just created the perfect segue to my next question. So,
Yeah.
uh, speaking of changes, and this is going to show off your knowledge that I keep, bragging about.
Mm.
What are some changes that you see coming down the digital marketing horizon in the next 6 months?
Good question. And I see obviously a lot of things, but things that are actually applicable, what I see is individual conversations is where everything is going to.
Hmm.
Like for instance, social media marketing. When we first started it, Twitter, Facebook, whatever it was, everybody was just broadcasting and you still could get tons of traffic just from posting a bunch of links. But and everybody else was doing, and it was working because we wanted to consume content that way. That was working well for everyone.
Hmm.
But that was way in the past. Now
Hmm.
people don't want to just see a bunch of links from anyone. They want to be heard. They want to have a conversation. And what I'm saying is that a lot of people, a lot of marketers are missing out on that critical piece. They're not there to talk and engage with their readers, with their consumers of their products. They're kind of just dishing it out, but there's no one, they're not willing to be on the other side of the conversation piece, So if somebody comes to a blog, that's why I think a lot of blogs, which is so silly to me, let's say marketing land and search engine land. I'm sure a lot of the listeners read those blogs or at least know about blogs. Well, they shut down their comment system and instead they say, well, go to Google Plus, Facebook, or Twitter to continue the conversation.
Right.
Well, I can't really continue the conversation because when I click on those links, it just takes me to their social media accounts.
Right.
And now what? I'm supposed to do all the work and post all the links and ask my questions. That's too much work for me.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to do that. Yet so many times I want to talk to them about things that they post because I want to know more or I disagree. And instead I just walk away. So I know I'm not the only one. And they're missing on that vital, important individual conversation with their readers. And as a result, I become just a consumer of the information. There's no interaction.
Yeah.
I still read it. I still benefit from it. But there is no mutual benefit of any kind. So maybe they'll make a few bucks on the ads that are displayed while I'm there. There's a pennies, but they're not really making a business out of me, and how many readers like me come to their blog. So again, people are missing out on individual conversations. Yet, if you think about it, this is where marketing is kind of heading. That's exactly what all the bots are about out there. This is all of a sudden, everybody's talking about different bots and everybody wants to integrate them into messaging systems and into businesses. And introducing bots into the conversation, it has two specific implications. And that is the fact that people want immediate answers. They want to talk to someone yesterday, right? This is kind of how we're being brought up, and this is the kind of society we live in. We want answers yesterday. Thus, companies are creating bots. However, on the other side of things, those bots are not people. They won't give me the kind of answers that I want. So yes, there is a need for an individual conversation. And bots might seem like an answer, but they really are not, because they can perform specific functions, can do specific questions, but they're really not feeling the need for customers to talk to the companies and find answers.
Yeah.
So again, do I have an answer? No, I just see the trend, and I see that people are trying to fill the void, but not really successfully. But every business will pretty much have the challenge of becoming of being there for their customers, their consumers, and on social media, if you think about it, the bigger someone's, and that I don't understand. I don't know how that logic works, but have you noticed that a lot of marketers with huge followings, they publish something, it could be the worst tweet, the worst blog post, yet in like an hour they have 100 retweets, just out of sheer numbers of their followers.
Yeah.
The problem is that if I want to ask them a question, they'll never answer it because they're bombarded by their followers, by questions. And again, we're talking here about the same thing that is happening with marketing land and search engine land not having the comments.
Mm-hmm.
those marketers are disengaging
Mm-hmm.
their followers from talking to them again. And
Yeah.
there has to be a solution. They're missing out on that important individual conversation. And as a result, people stop engaging with their content, stop
Yeah.
engaging with their brand. And even though they still have the need for that content, there's a disconnection there.
Yeah.
So
Hey, Anna,
yeah.
yeah, don't you think that those brands you've just mentioned will come around like some other big brands have done and reopen their comments?
I don't know. I hope so.
Yeah.
Because honestly, our businesses are not built on numbers. They're built, whether we want to think about it or not, on each individual person, each individual customer being sold on our brand,
Mm-hmm.
one person at a time. It's just, that's the way it is. I'm not saying that mass marketing doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you an example. I still believe that numbers, pure numbers work. So when I'm on social media, especially when you first start on social media,
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe that you should go for the numbers. The more followers you get, the better. However, people don't understand is that then you still need to engage with those followers, each and every one of them, and
Mm-hmm.
see if they're the right fit for your business or not. And one of the things that I did very successfully at the beginning of Traffic Generation Cafe, and I don't know if you've read that anywhere, Matthew, before, but basically I focused on Twitter, and I decided Twitter will become my very first traffic generation platform to, for me to test it and see if I can really drive hordes of traffic to my blog from Twitter and make Traffic Generation Cafe a success. And I did it in 2 months. You're not going to believe it, but in 2 months, people were coming to my blog thinking that I was there for years. They could have sworn I was there for years because
Mm-hmm.
everybody was talking about it and nobody knew that it was a brand new blog. And I did that all with Twitter, and I did it all. Number one, I used, and a lot of people will turn away from me and say, I'm not going to listen to that girl ever again, but it's true. I used a lot of automated software to find and create as many Twitter followers as I could.
Mm-hmm.
But what I also did is I tried to make it personal for them. And I tried to bring as many of them back to traffic generation. I'm saying it so many times. How about I start saying TGC? Is that helpful? Because I can't say generation anymore. It's becoming a mouthful.
Whatever's easiest. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay.
So
From now on, TGC means Traffic Generation Cafe.
there you go. Thank you. So I try to bring as many of them back to my blog and individually connect with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I created a page on my blog that I called something like Promote Your Business. And I told my brand new Twitter followers that they can come back to my blog, to TGC, and promote their business and post their links. And I would love to hear from them. So basically, I gave them an opportunity to talk about their business without
Mm-hmm.
any restrictions. And I responded to each and every comment. And I've created a conversation at the blog for my new Twitter followers. And that has proven to be quite a success because all of a sudden, people felt like they were being heard as opposed to being
Mm-hmm.
just a number, even though the numbers were growing very rapidly. And they were growing huge. In the first probably probably about 3-4 months, I raked up about 100,000 Twitter followers between about 4 or 5 different Twitter accounts. So that's quite a few people. But honestly,
Oh, you had 4 or 5 different Twitter accounts?
yes,
Okay.
because it's almost impossible to do it quickly enough with one.
Okay.
So yes, I had certain special Twitter techniques that got me those numbers. But again, even though I went for the numbers, the personal outreach was still there. And that's my point. The
Mm-hmm.
individual conversation still remained the integral piece of
Mm-hmm.
my massive Twitter outreach. And that individual conversation was what made it work, not the numbers. The numbers just opened the possibility to start more conversations.
So help me understand, are all 5 Twitter accounts under the TGC brand?
Yes, but basically, you know how on any given blog you have different categories.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, that's what I did on Twitter. Each account, imagine each account being a separate category of traffic generation.
Okay.
So on one account, I talked more about social media traffic generation. Then
Mm-hmm.
on the another account, I talked about SEO. So I just kind of,
Okay.
you know, created different
Hmm.
topics within traffic generation niche. Um, so again, that way, because Twitter has certain limits of how many people can you follow in one day and,
Mm-hmm.
just restrictions. And obviously I didn't want to spam. I just wanted
Mm-hmm.
to do it quicker than Twitter would allow me.
Hmm.
So creating 5 accounts, specializing each account according to different interests. And eventually, of
Mm-hmm.
course, after I've given Traffic Generation Cafe enough momentum when I didn't need to do that anymore. Then I just went back to completely organic, one account. I don't follow anybody there, just about, and it's growing on its own. It's not fast, but people are following me
Hmm.
because they're learning about me from whomever. It's all, word of mouth. It's for all natural organic marketing.
Hmm.
And that's okay with me because, again, I don't need numbers anymore. But
Yeah.
I think people who are just starting, numbers are important no matter how what others say, what quality over quantity. I'm not saying quality is not important. It has to be there. But
Mm-hmm.
it certainly helps if the numbers are there as well.
Yeah. So have you segmented your other social media platforms aside from Twitter?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay.
Uh, because, since TGC has grown to be such a big blog, it's really very difficult for me to segment anymore,
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I,
Especially if you're a one lady show, although you may have some help with that.
no, I actually don't. I've tried to get help and I've outsourced a few things in the past. And what I've realized is that nobody's me. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times my readers want to talk to me just like, when I go to a business, I don't want to talk to an assistant who may not know what
Mm-hmm.
the answer is. I want to go to the person who actually knows. And on my blog, since that's my primary business, it only makes sense that I'm the person people go to for answers because nobody
Mm-hmm.
else can kind of fill that void. So yes, I've stopped doing that, but I think again, if you're just starting, segmenting and trying to acquire as many potential customers as possible, bringing them back to your central hub, whatever that hub is, if that's your blog or that's a specific social media platform. For instance, if Facebook is something that you are focusing on, there's no, if your Facebook page, for instance, for your business is your primary business hub, then there's no reason why you can't go to Twitter to, get as many Twitter followers, but then bring them back to your Facebook page and
Mm-hmm.
kind of make that your central hub. You can do that as well.
Yeah. Can you tell us some of the automation software you're using with Twitter?
At the moment, I don't, believe it or not, because I'm going to, because I can't afford to generate too much useless chatter.
Mm-hmm.
I can only talk to people who really want to talk, not people who want to promote themselves and all of that. So
Yeah.
uh, with that in mind, I find that organic Twitter engagement is more important to me. So I really just go to twitter.com, and that's how I engage with people who retweet my messages, who ask questions. And I do it individually with each and one of them. So even though I slacked for the past week or so, but if you
Hmm.
go to retweet any of my posts, you'll hear from me directly
Hmm.
thanking you for it. And that's my point of an individual
Hmm.
conversation, because that, of all things, people will tell me back, is that really you
Hmm.
answering me, or is it like an automated anything? No, it's never automated. It's always me, because
Yeah.
each individual reader is that important to me.
Right. I like to make each of my responses like unique or different, so then it's easier to tell it's not automated,
Absolutely,
you know?
absolutely. And the more ways I find to make that individual connection,
Mm-hmm.
the stronger I feel my readers are, and some of my best readers have been with me from the very start of Traffic Generation Cafe. And the reason why was because I personally connected them with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I pretty much know, everything about their family, how many kids they have, because I talk to them, And again, those are some of the best readers that I have till today.
Yeah. Something tells me you're going to get more connections through this interview. People are going to want to connect with Anna. So,
I'm going to have to shut down all my social media.
yeah.
Sometimes my husband says that he needs to go to social media to see what I'm up to. But
Right.
yeah,
That sounds like my wife too. Anyway,
it's, yeah.
but so
Oh,
let's get to know Anna a little better here. I read that you were born in the Soviet Union.
yes.
I find that fascinating. So, what was it like to grow up in the old Soviet Union?
I loved it. It
Really?
was the best time of my life. We truly did have the best kind of childhood for me, the best kind of childhood, because
Hmm.
I really felt like it was a one large, big, extended family. And it might sound cheesy, but it wasn't growing up.
Hmm.
People kind of genuinely cared about each other, which you don't find anymore, because now we're so much more segregated, and it's
Hmm.
so much more autonomy
Hmm.
that we have these days, with the internet, with cell phones, truly does mean that the conversation is kind of, just fleeing away from us. And it's not just Russia. It's about just about any country that is more and more technologically advanced. That's
Hmm.
just happening everywhere. But we miss those conversations. We miss just
Yeah.
talking to friends. And in Russia, on any daily basis, somebody will knock at your door and say, hey, let's have a cup of tea, let's have a cup of coffee. And
Hmm.
that's how we lived. And I loved that. I loved having friends. I loved it that the Communist Party, and now that I'm grown up enough, obviously, and I know enough, actually know things,
Hmm.
you know, it, yeah, I understand how a lot of people might feel differently about it, but I think it did give us a purpose in life. And a lot more kids went to college, a lot more kids stay in school. And we really did have a common ground with people around us. And that was a good thing. We
Hmm.
lost it now. Russia kind of lost its identity, I think. So that's
Yeah.
fortunate.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that whole sense of community. It's
Hmm.
it's like today we talk more to people online, but we don't even know our neighbors, first names.
Absolutely. And it's kind of going that way. And I really dislike it. I wish it remained the same, but I suppose that's de-evolutionized evolution, because I wouldn't call
Hmm.
this progress,
Mm,
because we're digressing in our relationships with people, unfortunately. But it is a part of
yeah.
the progress that we're going through.
That sounds like a whole other podcast we could do on that topic.
Absolutely.
So, um, after the old Soviet Union collapsed, and I read that you came to the U.S. in 1996.
Yes.
So, what was it like to change from the Soviet society to the U.S. of the mid 90s?
You know, it wasn't, I didn't love it. As a matter of fact, I so didn't like it that I asked my boss to send me back within 3 months.
Hmm.
So it just wasn't my cup of tea. It was nice to visit and see how others lived, but there were not enough things for me to relate to. And
Hmm.
again, the way, so I was 21 when I moved here,
Hmm.
and the way people my age lived, and how it seems like how immature they were at that age,
Hmm.
and what little they wanted from life. They just wanted to kind of freeze that state of, my parents are paying my bills still. I
Hmm.
kind of, I went to college, but I still don't know what to do.
Hmm.
That was so unrelatable to me, because I
Hmm.
had to support myself from the age of 17. And a lot of kids in Russia did the same thing. We
Hmm.
kind of grew up achieving things on our own. Our parents couldn't afford to support us. And there was no such a thing as, will support you for the rest of your life. Surely people, families, extended families lived together for a long time, simply because housing was such that you couldn't just buy a place to live.
Hmm.
But that didn't mean that you didn't have a job. That didn't mean to, when you went to college, you pretty much knew who you wanted to be, and you were working towards it. So
Hmm.
again, I just couldn't relate to people my age all that well. And so I just really wanted to come back. But then I met my husband. And, it's amazing how things change when you find that one thing to relate to, and that's love. All
Right.
of a sudden, just everything gets better, because he helped me kind of understand the culture better.
Hmm.
And he's become that rock. We've been married for 19 years now. And,
Well,
yeah.
congratulations. That's great.
Yeah, I don't regret for a second that I ended up staying here, even though the first couple of years, ooh, that was very challenging.
Hmm.
The cultural shock is a real thing.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, he was in the Air Force, right?
Not when we got married, but later, within a year of
Oh,
our
okay.
marriage, he wanted to go in. And, in many ways, I admire him for it. He's an attorney by trade. He went to law school,
Hmm.
but he found it very unsatisfying, because he couldn't help people directly. He wanted to be like, to see the change that he was making.
Hmm.
So Air Force was a great career for him, and he was in for 10 years. And of course, I traveled around with him pretty much all over the world.
Hmm.
Um, but, he saw the direct impact that he could have on people's lives. And that was great.
Yeah, and I read and on your about page that during that time you got into modeling work.
Yes, for a while I did that. It's just kind of, it's sort of something that I don't like to talk about.
Hmm.
And it honestly is, a friend of mine went to Russia last summer, and he came back and he said, wow, Russian women are so beautiful. And now I understand how you feel, because I kept telling everybody, I grew up one of girls, not a pretty girl, not a beautiful woman, none like that. And it's only when I came to the US and everybody kept saying, well, you should start modeling. And I'm like, why? What's so special about me? But it's really honestly because I grew up, you know, among the most beautiful women in the world. Sorry, girls. It's just true, So when everybody just kept saying, you should do that, you should do that, and I really had nothing else going on. I decided to give it a shot. I had a lot of fun doing it for a couple of years, and then it was time to say goodbye because it's just, modeling and being married and having certain moral standards, just all those things didn't go together very well. So
Fascinating. So, you guys lived in Europe
yes.
during that time, I
Hmm.
think. And then your daughter was born in 2007.
Yes.
Everything was looking great. And then, bam, you and your husband hit a wall, so to speak. That was right as the recession hit, I believe, in
Right.
2008.
Right.
So, tell us a little bit of what happened.
Well, my husband hit a wall in his military career.
Hmm.
Not that his career progression had any trouble, but he did not like the leadership at the time, and he didn't see that leadership changing for a while, and he did not want to stand by that
Mm-hmm.
kind of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So he basically, on moral ground, he decided he was going to get out. And, that was great. Unfortunately, he ended up getting out of the military yes, during that recession. And it took him a year to find a job. So
Mm-hmm.
here we are with a mortgage, with a brand new child, unemployed for a year. It was
Wow.
really very challenging. And that's what was my turning point of
Mm-hmm.
I started looking for an online career because I was taking care of our child.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't really go get a job outside. I mean, I suppose I could, but I didn't want to because raising her in those first years was too important for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I started looking for an online career and I looked into, eBay selling, wasn't working very well, just all kinds of odds and ends, and found found out that you actually can have an online business that's completely online, that doesn't require any kind of physical handling of goods, which is exactly what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
And I guess down the road, a couple of years down the road, led me to where I'm at right now with
Yeah.
on my blog.
So that hard time, those struggles kind of propelled you to where you are today with Traffic Generation Cafe.
Absolutely. And of course, now it's easy to look back and say, oh, wow, those are, that's what made me who we are these days. But
Mm-hmm.
back then, it was a horrible time in our lives.
Yeah.
And it's hard to think, well,
Mm-hmm.
someday this all will be past.
Yeah.
So,
When you're in the midst of it, it is
yeah,
challenging. Yeah.
definitely, definitely. So anyway,
When you were educating yourself in digital marketing
mhm.
and going this direction, I'm curious, who did you turn to for that education online?
Good question. I don't really think I just read a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And as I read a lot, and I'm a good listener, and that's what I teach everybody to do. As you read, you need to listen to other people talking, who's mentioning who's relying on whom for good information, and follow that trail. So that's how I ended up finding people who seem to have good credible information. But also another thing that I turned out to be good at is testing the theories.
Hmm.
And that's truly, and I said that in the beginning, and I'm kind of coming back to it because it's that important. You have to be willing to test what anybody says, because just because they say it, it doesn't mean that it will actually work. So I've become very
Mm-hmm.
good at testing the theories that I was reading elsewhere.
Hmm.
Or even, I read a comment somewhere and somebody says, I wonder if this could be done. And I'm like, well, I don't want to wonder. I'm going to figure out if it can be done.
Hmm.
So, a lot of traffic generation strategies I talk about at my blog is something you won't find anywhere else because I develop it as an idea that I heard elsewhere, and then I actually figure out how to make it work.
Hmm.
So, yeah, most of it comes from not just theoretical knowledge, but because I did it or I'm doing it currently.
You have the courage to test things.
Well, I feel like I have no choice because nobody else wants to do it. If people want to talk about it, and again, I would hate for someone to point out that that actually doesn't work. So
Hmm.
I test.
And you do document some of your tests, right, on your blog?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Again, if I open my mouth, I better make sure that I have things to back it up. Now, a lot of things are not hard stats. I could write a post because this is what I have observed happening.
Hmm.
Do I have concrete numbers? No, but that's why I suggest that you take what has been working for me and test it on your own because your audience is different from mine. Your, online presence is your niche. Everything is different from mine, chances are. So
Hmm.
take it to your business and test it and see if it works.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's nothing wrong with failure, right? Failure means you're doing something.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are plenty of bad ideas out there.
Hmm.
But that's sort of the path to finding good ones. I wish they were all pearls of wisdom. They're not, unfortunately. But, it's okay. And you know what? A pearl of wisdom of today will be junk tomorrow. So
Hmm.
again, that's the nature of business, always evolving and always changing.
Yeah. If you could today go back in time and talk to the beginner blogger Anna Hoffman, what would you tell yourself?
Hmm. When we first start, well, when I first started, I shouldn't say we because I'm just generalizing to make myself feel better. But, I was just prideful in so many ways because I felt like everything that I was writing was just the best because it was revelation to me. And if it was revelation to me, I assumed it would be a revelation to everybody else. And that's so not true. And that's where listening comes in. This is something I think I've come up with it myself. Maybe I didn't. But, my recently favorite wisdom of mine is God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
Hmm.
So would do twice as much listening and a lot less talking. Once I started doing that, once I started listening to people who were giving me actual feedback in comments, not saying, oh, such a great post,
Hmm.
it's always nice to have a pat in the bag, but you know that those comments are just not very genuine sometimes.
Hmm.
But anyway, so once you start, listening to people, start listening to your customers. If you're not hearing any conversation around your business or your brand, that's you listening to your customers in a of its own because that means that you're doing something wrong and people don't want to talk about it. So you go out there, you go to Facebook, you publish a post,
Hmm.
and just be honest and say, this is what I'm doing, what do you think? Is this working for you? Is this not working for you? Give me honest feedback.
Yeah.
And be ready to get it too, and be ready to absorb it, not fight it, and see what you can get out of it. So it's very, very important to listen,
Hmm.
which once I started doing that, I was a lot more successful.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I'm listening and engaging a lot more with people through email than I am social media. Is that true with you too?
No, I'm not very good with email. Email kind of scares me. I don't know why, but it's just not my favorite way of communicating.
Okay.
So I'm a lot better with comments and social media. And social media doesn't mean that it's very surfacey to me. I've
Hmm.
engaged, I've had some great conversations on social media, specifically Google Plus. It kind of has that kind of depth to me, even though I know not nearly as many people are using Google Plus, but the depth of a conversation you can have there, it's priceless. You can't find that on any other social media channel.
Okay. Well, Anna, I've got the last question here for you, and this is something that I ask every guest. How has blogging changed your life?
It gave me purpose and value. Purpose and value, something that I have been missing before. And once I got that purpose and value, I truly understood how my husband felt when he went into the military. It's that idea of being helpful that is a two-way street. By helping someone, you get so much back, so much in return, that your value just goes up exponentially. And I love that about blogging.
Anna, how can people connect with you online?
Well, obviously, I said Traffic Generation Cafe so many times. The ears are probably falling off by now. But definitely trafficgenerationcafe.com is absolutely the best way of getting in touch with me. From there, you can get on my email list and feel free to email me back with any kind of question, feedback. I'm always listening. But also from there, you can find me on social media. Either Twitter or Google Plus or Facebook. I'm active on all three, not as much on the others. So if you want to connect with me there, I will always get back with you.
Okay, and I'll have links to all those things in the show notes.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Matthew.
Yeah, this has been a blast, Anna. Thanks for coming on the show and sharing your story with us.
Absolutely pleasure. I always love talking about myself.
They say that's everyone's favorite subject, so...
Probably, yes. I. Music to my ears.
And I love interviewing people, so this has been great.
Thank you so much, Matthew. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Blog Chronicles. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe on YouTube or iTunes and leave a rating or review to help other bloggers find us. If you want to chat, look me up on Twitter @MattLoomis. So who is going to be my next guest on the Blog Chronicles? Well, we're going to go south of the equator down to Buenos Aires, Argentina, to meet with Hernan Vazquez. He owns 3 online businesses, and we're going to talk about how entrepreneurs, business owners, and freelancing bloggers can effectively use their websites to bring in prospects and make sales using strategies like video, content curation, and PPC. I'll see you next time.